Hi, I'm Meg. Welcome to plantfitmeg. Welcome back to the channel. I'm back with a recipe video. It's been a while since I have put out a new recipe, so I thought it was time to go ahead and put out a new recipe video. I'm not even sure what I'm going to call it quite yet. It's sort of an eggy omelet or a savory pancake or an egg patty of sorts, and it's really delicious, super simple to make with really easy ingredients. It's also fairly high in protein if that's something that you are looking for, and we've been making this one pretty often. We like to use it for sandwiches, but also just as an egg patty on a breakfast platter with potatoes and maybe some tempeh bacon and a few other things. So I'll show you how I make it. I hope you really enjoy this recipe video. Remember to give the video a like if you enjoyed it, and here we go. So here are all the ingredients that you're going to need for the recipe. It's a very short ingredient list of chickpea flour, lupini flour, nutritional yeast, and some xʷməthkվəy, or black salt. If you don't have lupini flour and you don't have access to it, that is okay. You can substitute chickpea flour for the lupini flour. It will still taste really delicious and amazing. It's just not going to be quite as high in protein as if you use the lupini flour. So I'll show the nutrition labels here for you so that you have a reference. But for the chickpea flour, it's for a quarter cup, you have 5 grams of protein. And with the lupini flour, that's made of lupini beans, also sometimes labeled as lupin beans and lupin flour, for a quarter cup, you have 12 grams of protein. So if you're looking to amp up your protein content, it's a good one. It does say right on the packaging that you can substitute up to 25% of your recipe flour with lupini flour, and that should work well for you. Of course, I'm sure that will vary depending on which recipe you are using, but I do like to do a half and half mix of the chickpea flour and lupini flour for this recipe specifically. Another ingredient you can add to this recipe is veggies. So you can add half a cup of your favorite vegetables, just chop them up and put them into this recipe as well. This time around I decided to keep it really simple and just not add the vegetables, but you can absolutely do that. It adds a little extra burst of flavor and is really delicious. When we add vegetables to this, we often use a mix of just whatever is left in the fridge. Usually that ends up being onions, mushroom, and bell peppers. But choose your own adventure. So I'm starting off with half a cup of chickpea flour in my bowl here, and half a cup of lupini flour, a quarter cup of nutritional yeast, 1 teaspoon of xʷməthkվəy, also known as black salt. If you don't have black salt, you can use regular salt and use that as a substitution. It won't be quite the same because the black salt does give a bit more of an eggy flavor to the recipe, but you can absolutely substitute it or leave it out if you don't want to use salt in this recipe. I'm just going to give that a little mix. Add in 1.5 cups of water, and this is when I would add in my vegetables as well. The veggies can be something that you just throw in raw, or they can be something that you put in a pan first and cook them up a little bit first before putting into the batter. Either way, delicious, really yummy. So choose your own adventure here and make it the way that suits your preferences. So I'm just mixing that up really well, and then I'm going to preheat my griddler at this point. So usually I would preheat my cooking appliance in advance, but for this recipe, I want to let the bowl sit for a minute or two, a few minutes, so that it thickens a little bit. So I tend to just wait, mix it up, preheat when I'm done mixing, so that once it's preheated, the batter is ready to go. I'm using my Cuisinart griddler here, which I absolutely love. It's non-stick. I use it for a lot of different recipes. I'll have it linked below if you want to check it out. I set it to the griddle setting at 350 degrees. If you're using a regular pan, you can set it up to medium high heat. So I'm just showing you the texture here of the batter. It is somewhat thick. You don't want it so thin that it'll just go all over your pan. And I usually use my 1/4 cup measure to measure out the chickpea omelets so that they're around the same size and cook fairly evenly. I let them cook on the griddler for about 5 minutes. I would say just watch the edges of the batter. They will start to darken a little bit and the top of the batter will start to look more dry. That's when you know you're ready to flip. And then I'll allow them to cook for another maybe 3 to 5 minutes on the opposite side. And then they're done and ready to serve in whatever way you prefer. I like to make a yummy sandwich with this. This is a very basic sandwich. We actually didn't have a lot in the fridge at the moment, so it's super simple, just with some spinach and hot sauce. But I also like to jazz it up with onion and tomato and other vegetables and maybe a little bit of vegan cheese over the top or extra nutritional yeast. I've chopped these up and thrown them into a salad with some beans and salsa. I also really like to just eat these as a snack. If I'm feeling a little bit hungry and I want a little something in between meals, I'll just grab a patty, enjoy it cold. Really delicious. Sometimes I'll dip it in some hot sauce, but otherwise just eat it plain, and it's a really yummy snack as well. So thank you so much for clicking on today's video and watching through until the end. I really appreciate your support on the channel. Let me know if you have tried this recipe and what you thought about it. If you've heard of lupini flour and used it and enjoyed it, or lupini beans as well. I find they're a wonderful ingredient. I do have another recipe using the beans in a dip, and it's like a roasted red pepper lupini bean dip. I'll leave the video where I featured that below. I believe it was in my favorite summer recipe video. So I'll leave that linked in case you want to check that out. I hope you're having an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!